Do you believe in visual storytelling? Because so far we are talking about good stories, good characters. How important visuals are for you, and at what stage do you think? Do you think of visuals when you write, or is it something that is kind of added on with discussions later?
I think you have to you have to think about it as part of the flesh and the bone. Every character exists inside a space. Does he live in a tenement? Does he live in a mansion? Automatically you're dictating your visual environment, and it's very important to see that as you go. It's the clothes on the character. It's part of the, remember I said it's not just character, it's also events. So I said character and events, and I would include visuals, and I would include the actor himself is a big issue, because the actor a certain kind of an actor is a different style than another actor. So there's so many considerations. The thing is, I don't know what you mean by, there are certain directors, that's true, who are very known for their literacy and who say, I really am not that interested in the visuals. I let the cinematographer worry about that. But I could never do that. I mean, I want to put the camera where it is. I mean, I will often take the advice from the DP or from the camera operator who might have a better idea. But when I write my shot lists, etc., I always have a shot list in my mind and a place. And as the day goes, I find it can be improved upon. That's to say, let's say you have a scene you're doing and you have 12 shots you want. And then you say, I really, if I run out of bad weather, if I have clouds, if I have some kind of problem, I definitely need 4 shots. So you end up sometimes having to compromise because of various conditions, and you need to go to your priorities first. So I always try to shoot my priorities. Can't always, but I always try to shoot the priority shots first. And
talk a little bit about.
But it's all visual. What?
Shot list, because that's a rare commodity in this town. And I think people don't understand what they are and how they use it.
A shot list is the ultimate breakdown of your script. You have your script, you have your dialogue, and that's where you sit alone sometimes, or sometimes some people like to sit with their cinematographer, or maybe a storyboard artist, and you visualize the cut, the shot by shot of the scene. So where is the camera? What you're trying to achieve in this beat. There's a beat. So you're breaking down the scene to its finale. This is now you're coming to the stage. Now you're coming to a group of actors and technicians, and you're saying, these are my 6 elements that I need, my 6 shots or 12 shots for this day. So that gives you a lot of focus. And if you're willing, and a lot of people are, I am, I would give my assistant director the shot list and say, all right, I want to get that shot first in the morning, second shot, third shot. I want it in this order, and this is the way I want to go. And then he may say, well, we can't quite do that because this actor has a bad turnaround for that. This actor needs clothes for that. We need a stunt for that. There's all kinds of things you can always think about. But that's where you negotiate your shot list. But a shot list, for me, that's the ultimate. It's like microsurgery. You know, you're coming to, you know the patient has a problem. Now you're into the details. How do I stitch this wound?
One of the things, together with the shot list, that seems to be a great deal of difficulty here, is geography.
And that's what we are going to talk about tomorrow, if it's okay.
I got shut down, it's okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry. But I saw some other questions here. Yeah, there in the middle, in the black woman. Sorry. And then we give a chance to the other auditorium, okay? Where is the microphone? Thank you.
Mr. Stone, I'm Yaliko, and I'm curious about whether you've read a script before that you were interested, but you put that aside, and whether we are thinking about doing it in the near future, and can we have a chance to see it? If so, could you tell us about this script, or you haven't it in your mind?
Have you got script which weren't realized, which didn't become a film? Are there any script of yours which didn't become a film?
Oh, yes, several. I worked for a very long time on Evita. Which was made, by the way, but not by me. And I worked for a long time on Tom Mix and Pancho Villa. Not that long. I worked on Fountainhead. I worked on Pinkville for a long time. We were about to shoot with 3 weeks to go. We were shut down by the hedge fund crisis of 2007. That was a heartbreaker. We built the village in Thailand. We had everything going. It happens, you know, and some scripts, by the way, you work on off and on for years, and they just don't go. They don't go. I can't, you know, writing does take time, and let's be honest. I mean, I told you to hurry it up and don't get stuck. But at a certain point, let's say, if you want to really sit down and wrestle with a script and not turn it over to another writer, and they really want to do it, you need 6 straight weeks at least. 6 straight weeks where hopefully you've thought about it. But those 6 weeks, if you got to get that, you got to nail it or start to nail it. Because if it ain't happening after 6 weeks, and I'm being rough, but that's really, you know, a movie is seen in one beat. And if you take too long to write it, you're going to run into a little problem, is that you wrote a great script, but you wrote 3 movies, and you don't know which one to fucking cut. And I've overwritten a lot, and had to cut so much. You don't want to do that if you're smart. If you're smart, you don't want to cut. I remember Terry Semel at Warner Brothers said to me when the Any Given Sunday script, he's a very dry man, as you remember, and I wrote a 140-page script, co-wrote, because John Logan's script was there too. I wrote 140 pages script. He says, great script, but too bad, you're going to have to cut a lot of it. And he's right. It not only is it a pain in the ass to shoot, it's a pain in the ass to cut. You have no idea the time you will kill yourself in the editing room cutting things you love. And the counter argument I would say is, you know, yeah, but I didn't know that until I got there because I didn't know which one to shoot. I knew that I had something, but I wasn't quite sure. But obviously, if you can be economical, Billy Wilder said to me, that JFK, how can you make a movie 3 hours and 10 minutes? You know, nobody's going to go see that, you know. He was always saying, I cut my movies. He said, I don't believe Billy, but he said, I cut Double Indemnity in 3 weeks, and I had it in fucking Pasadena in a preview in the 4th week. Okay, you know, everyone lives on their own little fantasies, but I have to say they were very economical, very economical.
Thank you. I said that we give a chance to the other room. So I asked them if there is anybody who wants to ask a question.
Good.
Okay.
Yes,
then
here is
let's
one.
just stay here. There is a question there.
Yes. Can you hear me?
But wait for the microphone, please. Sorry, but there is a question from the other auditorium.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Go on, please.
Okay, so
Az írás mellett volt szó arról, hogy vizualitás, hogy hogyan képzeli el a képileg ugye a dolgot, és
So my question is, how far do you think that a visual script should be elaborated?
Sorry.
yes, it's weird because you can see my face. It's weird.
Yeah, you're right, you're right.
So I have only one simple question. Why filmmaking?
Why do you want to make movies?
So how come?
I forgot.
Maybe it wasn't the whole question.
Thank God I'm coming to the end of it. No, yeah, I think that I told you that I had written a book when I was 19 years old. I had a definite desire to express myself and my inner feelings. The book was not accepted for publication and at that time. But after having been to the Vietnam War as a soldier, I came back from that war very, how do you say, there was a transformation from a cerebral thinking point of view to a more visual, visceral point of view. In Vietnam, I found to really pay attention to the 6 inches in front of your face was necessary to survive. And I think because I had a desire to write, but the novel form was a difficult one for me to believe in at that time, because the novel itself, I thought, had been overwritten. There were too many novels. It was just too limited a form that after the war, I really just felt the desire to take up the camera to tell the story, but combine it with some of that visual, some of that verbal panache that I like to do once in a while, like long speeches and something, character clashes, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And this question was about if you are making a storyboard or write something about the visual concept into the script or outside the script about the films.
Well, I'm always thinking about how to do it better, and I'm talking to my DP and my production designer. But storyboards, yes, that we've done them. We do them especially for complex action sequences where you need the cooperation of many departments at one time to be on the same page, whether it's costume or stunts or special effects, or, you know, so that everyone knows what you're doing is very helpful and saves time on the set. I have never seen a storyboard that ever resembled in what was written, what was drawn on the page, to be honest. That doesn't mean that it's not valuable, because it does get the argument going and allows everybody to know what you're doing, which is important at times. Sometimes you can work, you know, in the mystery, but you should do so. Let's say you have an idea in your head, you don't even want to tell your AD. That's possible. Certainly Terry Malick does that. But you know, you should try to keep those moments, the simpler scenes, that you can work on, and be aware of your time limits on that scene.
Okay, we have 10 more minutes. Here is a question.
Once you've worked through...
Sorry, wait for the microphone, please. Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Hi. Once you've decided on your story and you've done the initial outline, working with a co-writer, how do you usually work it? Do you work on the first act, pass it back, he works on the second act, or like, or do you do a draft and then kick it back?
No. Often, because I'm directing or editing and I'm trying to start something up, he would do a first pass based on our notes, not necessarily a treatment. It depends on the writer. If I feel he needs a treatment to clarify it for himself, yes, I'll ask him to do that. But no, I would take an entire pass, and then we get into it, and that's when I finish my editing job, because it's very hard to do both, that's when I would go into the story. But I'd ask my co-writer to have very little ego about this, because I don't care who contributes it, I just want a result, and I don't want to get stuck in all this bullshit with the Writers Guild and all this way. Sometimes writers, because they have a very tough life, they are the most difficult and sensitive about everything. So it's best to find the right kind of temperament for the writer that you can work with.
Thanks.
It's your turn.
Okay. How has your process of choosing music changed over the years?
I've worked every way. I mean, honestly, every way. In the beginning, I was very flattered to get top composers like Georges Delerue on Salvador, and on Platoon he did Unfortunately, he had to compete with Samuel Barber, which is very difficult. But George was a wonderful man, and I love his Salvador soundtrack. Then John Williams came into my life. No, Wall Street, I fired the composer, and we brought in Stuart Copeland at the last second, who did our track. And then on Born the 4th of July, I worked with John Williams for 3 films, Born, Nixon, and JFK. And he's an all-in composer. He really does take over, in a sense, and delivers his side of it. And he's also very amenable to change. I worked with other composers I worked with Ennio Morricone. That was a difficult one, and he's certainly extremely creative, and but you know, challenging. I also worked with Vangelis on Alexander, and I had a wonderful experience with him. I think he's one of the great composers, and he works out of Greece. He doesn't travel very much, so you have to go to him. I've also worked on movies like Natural Born Killers where I didn't have a composer. I used needle drops and songs all the way through. I didn't want a composer. I worked on Any Given Sunday with 4 composers, 5 I think it was, 5 composers, because not one of them could give me everything I wanted. I used parts of, and I also used needle drops and rap. And Jamie Foxx sang a song. So, Craig Armstrong I worked with on World Trade Center, very beautiful, melodic Scottish composer. He'd worked on Romeo and Juliet with Baz Luhrmann. And I worked also with this young composer on Savages called Adam Peters, with a lot of needle drops, from Mexican hip-hop to, and on all these movies, you know, I can't say that I know, except on Natural Born Killers, I don't know which way we're going to go. The style of the movie is determined as we go. It's a search. On Natural Born Killers, we often played the music on the set for the actors to feel the tonality, give us the pace. But that was an interesting experiment. And I often would put music on the set to keep the tonality of the scene. That's about all I can say right now.
There is a question there. Where's the microphone? Here? Oh, there is the black one near to you.
Do you work with your actors before the shooting, like rehearsals?
I hope so. I'm not one of those people who believe in showing up on the set and figuring it out, because too much time would be wasted. No, we rehearse as much as we can in a room, and then often, if we can, we rehearse on the set. And then often I ask for 2 weeks. And then, because also rewriting occurs from the rehearsal. And then when we get on the set, first thing up is I rehearse with the actors again before the shooting of it. And then we set the lights and the staging and make adjustments. And then we shoot again. Then we shoot. By that time, we've rehearsed so many different techniques, so many different ways that we have options. We have alternatives. We've tried things, and I'm not saying that we make it rigid at all. There's no rigidity. We have a sense of it. And often things happen. Although we've rehearsed, often things happen that are very spontaneous.
And the final dialogue is making finalized during these rehearsals?
Final dialogue can change all the way through. It tends to, as you focus, it tends to change less. In other words, most of these things should be worked out, I think, in rehearsal. But at the last day, you know, the day of the shooting is the only day where you're going to be on film, right? So everything else is just a warm-up. You did a great rehearsal 3 weeks ago, but you don't remember exactly what you did.
Thank you.
Well, I took notes, but I may have some notes, and I may change things. But the day of the shoot is the ultimate day, and I love that but we have prepared, we've rehearsed, we have ideas. we know things that we don't want to do. But I never would ask in a rehearsal to get it completely there. In other words, you don't want the actor to blow it out. You know, you want to keep it. There is an energy to this thing. And you hope on the day that the actor is feeling good too, because that's a big day, that moment. And I don't believe in the first take, but I would use it if it was good. I believe that you're in this thing for at least 3, 4, 5 takes, maybe 10. So, you know, I'm not one of those guys who runs around and says, save it, save it, save it for that first take, because it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes he'll give it to you, an actor will give it to you on the 3rd or 4th or 5th take. It's an interesting thing, and sometimes you're wrong. Sometimes you think it's great on the set, and it isn't so great in the camera, okay? So you have to be a little bit, remember what I said earlier about tight and loose? You have to be a little bit tight and a little bit loose. It's a flow between the two, like polarity.
Last question for today, just for today. There's someone who want to ask. There's less and less oxygen here. Am I right?
You seem to be quite fascinated about big, powerful political characters like Alexander or Nixon. Where does this come from?
I think dramatists like power. They like big, larger than life. The Greeks did, the Shakespearean, the Elizabethans did. What's wrong with that? I mean, I've also done.
There's nothing wrong with it.
I've also done movies about small people, like U-Turn and the criminals of the natural-born killers. It's some, you know, I'm not wedded only to kings and presidents.
I see. Thank you.